Hello, all. This is Robert Landau, Live Life Well TV host, welcoming you to another episode of Top 10. We've got a really neat episode this time. Well, you know what? They all are. And if you haven't seen them, please go back onto this channel and take a look at previous episodes of Top 10. But this episode is something special because we are going to present the top 10 foods that were invented by accident. And you will be shocked, stunned, and absolutely amazed when you hear what some of these foods are. So stay tuned. So before we go any further, let's acknowledge the following website, wunderlist.com. So the top 10 foods that were invented accidentally. Here's number 10, chocolate chip cookies. Yes, chocolate chip cookies. Chocolate chip cookies are loved, maybe even by you, not only by children, but also youngsters and adults like you and I. The chocolate chip cookie was actually accidentally invented by a lady named Ruth Graves Wakefield back in 1930. And here's the deal. The invention happened when Ruth decided to prepare a batch of chocolate butter drop dew cookies, D-O. After realizing she was out of baker's chocolate, she instead added broken pieces of Nestle chocolate bar, and there was when our beloved chocolate chip cookie was invented. So I can see her just doing this, and she gets something totally different, looks different, has never seen it before, and Ruth kind of feels like she's onto something big, like something that might last for generations, that might last for eons. And if there happens to be life on Mars, they might love it too. So she tastes it and she goes, oh my God, Eureka! I think I've got something here. And you know what, Ruth? You did. And you know what else, Ruth? We thank you from the bottom of our chocolate chip Nestle bar hearts. Here is number 9. This happens to be a favorite of mine. I can't stop eating them. How about you? Potato chips. Yeah. Potato chips were invented by Chef George Crumb, C-R-U-M, back in 1853. As the story goes, Chef Crumb invented potato chips accidentally when a customer at Saratoga Springs Moon Lake House, and Saratoga Springs is in New York State, that customer there was complaining that the fried potatoes were not thin enough even after slicing them thin repeatedly. So the chef decided to slice the last batch of potatoes as micro thinly as possible, fried them, and then decided to add salt to them and sent them to the customer. The customer absolutely was floored. The customer couldn't believe it. The customer absolutely loved them. And lo and behold, my dear potato chip friends, we had the first ever potato chip. I just want to take a moment of silence for that. I love potato chips. I don't know about you. I have ever since I was a kid. Here's number 8. This was accidentally invented. The Popsicle. Immensely popular among children, this ice pop is actually invented by an 11-year-old kid by the name of Frank Epperson back in 1905. And Frank, you aren't the only person who loved them and loves them. And kids don't only love them. I know plenty of adults that absolutely love popsicles, and why not? One summer day, Epperson left his mixed soda and water with a stick in it, and then forgot the drink, resulting it to remain outside in the cold night all through the night. The next morning, when he got up and he saw this, Epperson found his drink frozen inside the glass with, of course, that wooden stick stuck into it. He named his discovery Popsicle because his last name was Epperson, but then later he changed it to Popsicle. And I say, good going, Frank Epperson of 1905. Here is number 7. You won't believe it. Beer. Yeah, beer. The enormously consumed beverage beer is said to be discovered by Mesopotamians about 10,000 years ago. The invention happened while they were trying to store grains for their bread, but because of the dampness of their storage spaces, it caused their grain to ferment. Some Mesopotamians were brave enough to taste the drink, and thank God you did, Mesopotamians, way back then, because beer was invented. I went to college in Luxembourg, and the college was just down the main street from this bar, and Luxembourg brews its own beer. I drank so much beer when I was a freshman in Luxembourg that I didn't even know my name. But I'm still here to tell the tale. I'm sure you have similar stories, but here, without further ado, is number 6. Ice cream cones. Ice cream cones were invented by accident. The ice cream cone was invented in 1904 at the St. Louis World's Fair by a guy by the name of Ernest A. Hamwi, Hamwi. The ice cream cone was discovered when an ice cream vendor at the fair ran out of the bowl to serve ice cream in. After seeing this vendor next to him who was selling waffles, this guy came up with the idea of spinning the waffle into a cone-like shape for the ice cream. The idea of serving ice cream into a cone-like waffle seemed very compelling to customers back then, and we now see how the ice cream cone has made its way into our hearts, all because of what that guy who looked at the vendor next to him and saw the waffle-shaped stuff, and he thought, wow, wow, and wow. Here's number 5, CocaCola. John Stith Pemberton, an American pharmacist, actually invented Coca-Cola back in 1886 in Atlanta. During the Battle of Columbus, Pemberton became injured, which led him to get addicted to morphine. To cure his addiction, Pemberton, because he was a pharmacist, researched and experimented on painkillers that would serve as drug-free alternatives for his addiction. Eventually, after several experiments, he created syrup from coca leaves and coca wines. He named the syrup as Pemberton's French wine coca, but later on in 1886, due to the ban of alcohol, a non-alcoholic version of wine was introduced, naming it popularly known as Coca-Cola. What a story. That's amazing. Which brings us to number 4, Worcestershire sauce. The accidental invention of Worcestershire and the sauce, Worcestershire sauce, took place at the town of Worcester, England, in 1835. Upon returning to England, Lord Marcus Sandy, the former governor of Bengal, India, found himself craving for his favorite Indian sauce and appointed drugstore owners John Lee and William Perrins to create it. But because of the strong odor of the sauce from vegetable and fish mixture, they decided to store it in a basement and forgot it there for 2 whole years. The aging period during those 2 years changed the flavor of the sauce, and it became an instant hit with customers. So there you go. We're down to number 3 for you, and here it is: cheese puffs and cheese curls. The story of the invention of cheese puffs is very unusual and, just slightly weird. The accidental invention of cheese curls happened by an animal food manufacturer by the name of Flankall Company of Beloit, Wisconsin, back in 1935. The staff there fed moist corn into the grinder in order to reduce the clogging that was happening in that grinding machine. Edward Wilson, an employee at the corporation, noticed that the moist cornmeal that would came out in puffy ribbons, and decided to take that home and add some seasoning to make the first cheese puff. Wow. This is really kind of odd, but interesting, don't you think? Brings us to number 2, nachos. During World War II, an accidental cuisine just happened to be invented, which is diversely enjoyed globally today. Ignacio Anaya, Anaya, who was the maitre d' at a restaurant called the Victory Club in Piedras Negras, Mexico, near Fort Duncan, got to host a group of hungry US soldier wives. Anaya decided to cover a plate of totopos with grated cheese and sliced jalapenos and presented that as an appetizer. The cuisine was named nachos after Anaya's nickname, Nacho. Who knew? Which brings us to number 1, Kellogg's cereal. The story goes like this. The most commonly consumed breakfast item, cornflakes, is actually an accidental discovery, as has every item we've mentioned during this episode. But in this case, in the 19th century, a guy by the name of John Harvey Kellogg, along with his brother Will Keith Kellogg, attempted to make a food item to stop, dare I say it, masturbation, but actually left the wheat to dry out and flaked it once dry to produce wheat flakes. After the discovery in 1906, Will Keith Kellogg decided to experiment by switching from wheat to corn and marketed it alone to invent evergreen breakfast options by the name of corn flakes. So the next time you happen to find yourself eating Kellogg's corn flakes, you finish the sentence. Anyway, what a way to end an episode, if you ask me. But nevertheless, I am going to have something to eat after all that. But something tells me it's not going to be cornflakes. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope you had as much fun as I did. This has been Robert Landau, Live Life Well TV host, with another astounding, absolutely amazing, totally unbelievable, but immensely entertaining episode of Top 10. Thanks for tuning in.